of the country. Gentlemen and a lady, thank you so much for coming. First thing is first, Fred, let me start with you on this. There is a prevailing mood in the country pertaining the coming into effect of the 16% VAT imposed by the National Treasurer. And we have seen yesterday the traffic snarl-ups across Nairobi as many petrol stations ran out of fuel. And the impact is already felt, yet it's just only 1 week. How long do Kenyans need to be preparing themselves to brace for what's coming ahead, considering the kind of mood in the country, the groundswell in public mood at time when there is concern of ballooning wage bill, growing national debt, and with no clear policies and framework, yet the president is in China for more aid for the African continent when the country has no sailing on its debt?
Thank you, Ayub. First of all, I would want to start from where we left this discussion sometimes back in April. Remember, there was Tax Amendment Bill 2018. That's where the problem started. Now, in the Tax Amendment Bill 2018, the government had proposed the removal or the transfer of certain goods from, zero-rated status to VAT, to exempt status. An economist will tell you that when you do that, you are trying to transfer that cost to the consumer. Basically, VAT is a consumer tax. That's what it means. And the goods that were proposed for that transfer were milk, processed milk, LPG gas, agricultural pesticides. If you look at those goods, they are the goods that contribute towards the economy of this country. In terms of agriculture, the pesticide, the processed milk, and LPG gas. And that means the supplier and the trader of those goods was not able to incur that tax, but it either put it as a production cost or take it to the consumer by raising the cost, the price of those goods. Now, let's come back. This bill, initially in 2013, it was postponed. This issue would have been sorted at the ballot in 2017. We didn't do that. But you know what? Because the politicians then were very careful, they knew it is going to cause a lot of public uproar, and then they shelved it. Actually, it had been shelved twice. Now, today, the issue that we have at hand is not a creation of President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's not a creation of Rotich. It's a creation of the then parliament. We are seeing a situation where we are going to have an increase in prices of commodities. It has happened. Today, the cost of doing business is going to be very high. Look at the airlines. We're talking about petroleum products. Jet fuel is going to increase, and that means the fare prices are going to go high. Already, Jumbo Jet, a budget airline, has given a notice from October they're going to increase their fare. Even when the common man was having a relief that for the first time, they're now able to travel from, Mombasa, Malindi, Nairobi through air at a very low cost. That is going to affect the business. As a political party, our position has been very, very consistent. When the parliament then invited, what you call public participation. We wrote to the clerk and we gave our views on why those goods should not be moved. Recently, when this happened, before it happened, we also petitioned Parliament, and we told them, by levying tax on petroleum products, you are going to mess the economy. The government is doing this to raise revenue, and so that they can bridge the budget deficit. But they're doing that not knowing, by doing that, they're killing the economy. Our position has been, don't postpone. Even President Uhuru Kenyatta came this morning and signed the Finance Bill 2018. It is not going to help, because in that finance bill, you are postponing it. We have proposed to the Speaker, call a special sitting, and then let's amend. The only solution is an amendment. That is the position of the party.
Case of postponement, because it only creates perpetual case of scenario. Nyandia, let me come to you at the center. Then, does it bode well then for Henry Rotich and company and the economic policy setters in the country that this is ridden with consequences, which is already felt across the country? We have seen Kenyans trooping to neighboring countries to go and get fuel instead of, buying it at a higher price when they can afford it at a lower rate in neighboring countries, just crossing over the border, coming back. I mean, the consequences just in a in 4 days' time is felt in the country, and it's enormous. It's having a large case of, encompassed sort of consequence. How well do we need to navigate around this? Because at the moment, we have infant industries in the country. The Big Four agenda is in place, but this pushes the consumer to the end and will bear the consequences. So how well do we need to style up and cope with the current crisis situation?
Like you say, there's consequences. And I think that all these actions that we are facing now are consequences of decisions that have been made prior. However, in terms of consequences, the average citizen doesn't have a choice but to go with the flow.
Okay.
Whatever the scenario is, whether we have to cross the border, whether we have to walk, whether we have to take a bike, the consequences are here. We're facing them and we're living them. We've faced situations like this as citizens constantly, where things are abruptly introduced into our lives and we are powerless, is what it feels like right now. So in terms of consequences, I think that will have to be seen. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but as we are right now, the situation is dire.
Okay, definitely. Anthony, coming to you. We have a huge mountain to climb here to do better as a country, because on one hand, there are two scenarios here. We have a growing national debt. We have seen what China has pledged the country. Coming into that in a moment, of course, pertains the FOCAC Africa Summit, in which it pledged more than 60 billion in aid. But clearly then we need to put our house in order in the country, because there hasn't been clear policy pertaining our borrowing rate, and it's worrying that the appetite is growing for even more. But then again, back home, we have this 16% VAT coming into effect, perhaps targeting the low-lying fruit, which is the energy sector, the fuel, as per the statements made by Musalia Mudavadi, the ANC party chief. However, where was the case that we have went wrong? Because at the moment we are handling a case scenario of postponing this from 2013 to 2016. Of course, it was an election year. Because of interest, politicians again did shelve it to 2018. We see again President Kenyatta putting his signature into it. Again, it goes to 2020 for another 2 years. Clearly, then it's a case of cycles, going around in cycles, than getting permanent solution to this. How well do we handle the double tragedy that we have at the moment? One on the government side, two on the common citizen side.
I think, first of all, thank you for hosting us once more. Now it's becoming a reality. I think a lot of us out here as Kenyans, we've just been hearing about the country's in debt, loans keep going up, and there's going to be effect, and we've just been less concerned and bothered about the whole discussion. But now it's coming closer home. And now is when Kenyans are now beginning to realize the impact of, an increase in terms of the debt situation in our country. My greatest worry is not the fact that we are probably pursuing these loans and whatnot.
Okay.
In the period when President Kibaki was in power, if these levels of debt were witnessed, everyone would associate with them, because you would point out and say, there's Thika Road, there is this infrastructure coming up, there is, you have seen tangible things that as a Kenyan you'd be less bothered. But you see, we operated with the same benefit of trust with the Jubilee government from 2013, on the basis that even as they take up this loan, they're taking it up to spur up the kind of progress that President Kibaki had initiated. But now, what we are witnessing is we are in a situation that is considered the biggest crisis ever in Kenya, a debt going up to over 4.5 trillion. And we are now seated helpless, realizing that we have to pay these loans. We cannot even account properly for where that money has gone to. You remember, this is the period where we have myriads of cases in terms of corruption. So all this money lost like that. Nobody is talking about how much we've been able to recover from corruption. The figures we get every day are shocking. Now you're coming back to tell Kenyans, beyond what you've witnessed in terms of corruption, we still want to, insist on the burden and press it on further on your shoulders. I think we are preparing this country for a bad thing. And the bad thing could be anything close to even a revolution. Look at the kind of crisis we're in today. If you see how many cars are queuing in petrol stations. In fact, I think most petrol stations are now closed down. Those are jobs lost. Those are pedestrians and commuters stranded. I mean, the country is facing a looming crisis that President Uhuru Kenyatta himself must take lead. This is not when you apportion blame to parliament and whatnot, because at the end of the day, we are all his citizens of this great country. So he has to be a bit more proactive and alive to the reality that Kenyans are not associating with this kind of conditions. So probably the options that we have is begin to trace back where we started getting wrong. And I think, first of all, is when we started taking these loans to sort of offset recurrent expenditures, so that now you're able to sustain certain recurrent expenses without necessarily thinking of sustainable measures.
Okay.
Hence the reason why we keep going and reaching out to different players. We've hosted the UK Prime Minister, I told you last time, unless we properly define our interest, sometimes we miss out. Because our interest must not always be loans. Our interest must be issues around, you know, how do we intensify on the trading? So that now we have capacity based on the profits we make from our engagement in terms of trade to be able to, you know, meet the cost of some of these obligations. But what we have today that is personally very disturbing is the fact that this is just the beginning. And if you hear out a lot of the economists, they're actually pointing out to this is just the first pinch on the Kenyans' faces. We are yet to actually experience more. And there are no good signs in terms of even the government trying to help. I've seen one of the reports or dailies reporting that when the Energy CIS was invited to the parliamentary committee to try and expound on the fact that, yes, this issue has been there since 2013, but the reason why there has been extension is to allow them to plan well so that they cushion the common man from the effect of this fuel levy. But it appears like nothing was ever done. So when they're called upon a parliamentary committee, all they say is that we are going to do our best. You know, I think we are at a point in this country where people must be specific. Define it to the last letter.